tweet. Joining us now is Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff of California. He is the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, where Michael Cohen will testify tomorrow behind closed doors. Good morning, Congressman.
Good morning.
Have you had a chance to read these 20 pages of the prepared opening statement of Michael Cohen yet?
I've had a chance to read some of them. I haven't really had a chance to digest them. I think we're all trying to come to grips with some of the remarkable statements that he's prepared to make.
So what is new to you in here? What didn't you know before reading some of this?
Well, you know, a lot of this we knew. It wasn't public. But in terms of what I think is most significant about the written statement, it certainly indicates that the president had advanced knowledge of the WikiLeaks release, these Russian stolen documents. That would mean if Mr. Cohen is accurate about this, that the president has been dishonest with the country about his knowledge of those releases of Russian stolen documents from the Clinton campaign. He also offers some pretty solid corroboration in terms of the hush money payments, if these checks are in fact authentic. And I think what you can see also in the written statement is why the Office of the Special Counsel found his testimony credible. Now, we haven't heard it yet, but what strikes me as a former prosecutor as credible about it is that it only goes so far. If his interest was merely in incriminating the president, you would have expected him to say, well, I overheard direct conversations of this, or the president told me this, or I witnessed that. He could have been much more explicit than the statements in his written testimony. So that does lend it some credibility. But again, what we'll be looking for in our hearing is the corroboration for these accounts. And
if you see corroboration, I mean, he's apparently going to present 2 checks. If you see evidence and corroboration, how does that change how you proceed? Because we just had Congresswoman Jackie Speier on, who told us that she sees impeachable actions in here.
Well, first of all, we haven't heard the testimony yet. The original testimony included falsehoods, so we need to go through just what part of his testimony was accurate, just what part was inaccurate, what went into those false statements, and also dig down much deeper in terms of the circumstances around his testimony before our committee. In the written statement, he talks, for example, about his testimony being available to the president's personal lawyers. Is that all that he has to offer there, or is there more that we can corroborate in terms of what the president knew about that false testimony? So there are still a lot of questions to be answered. We really have only the highlights in this written testimony, but we have a lot of hard work to do ahead of us.
Well, as you know, because you tweeted about it, there was, remember that explosive BuzzFeed account that got so much attention that then Robert Mueller actually sort of distanced himself from and said wasn't true. That was saying that the president of the United States had directed Michael Cohen to lie. And you seized on it and said that that was one of the most serious accusations to date that you had heard. You tweeted. Well, he puts more details on that now in his opening statement. Let me read this to you. Mr. Trump did not directly tell me to lie to Congress. That's not how he operates. In conversations we had during the campaign, at the same time I was actively negotiating in Russia for him, he would look me in the eye and tell me there's no business in Russia, and then go out and lie to the American people by saying the same thing. In his way, he was telling me to lie. That is obviously less overt and less direct than the way BuzzFeed had depicted it. And so does that change how you see it now?
You know, what I said at the time is, yes, these were very serious allegations, but I also said at the time these may prove unfounded. And obviously that original BuzzFeed account, at least according to what Mr. Cohen is saying, wasn't fully accurate, that the knowledge that he was describing in his written statement is far less than what was attributed to him in that BuzzFeed account. That, to me, makes Cohen's account more credible because, again, if his only motivation, as the president suggests, is to reduce his sentence, or to incriminate the president, then you would expect him to make a more full-throated claim against Donald Trump. So I find on the face of it, a credible account. Certainly that was the conclusion of the special counsel. But the proof is in the pudding. I'd like to see how he behaves when we question him. I'd like to see what corroboration we can find for what he's saying on these and frankly, many other issues.
So now that you've read this, or a portion of it, what is your most burning question for him tomorrow when he's in front of your committee?
Well, I think what we'll want to do is we'll want to go methodically with him through his prior testimony to determine what was accurate, what wasn't accurate. We'll want to drill down into just what lawyers, what individuals were aware that the statements he was making to Congress were false, whether there are any other indications that that got back or was blessed in any way by the president. But we'll want to walk through each of the Russia-related allegations with him in great detail. And again, our goal will be to find the truth, to find corroboration if it exists, so that we can make a full report to the American people.
Congressman, I want to read you something that another congressman, Matt Gaetz, from Florida, Republican, who, of course, is a very big, arguably biggest President Trump supporter in Congress. Here's what he tweeted to Michael Cohen last night, yesterday afternoon. Hey, Michael Cohen, do your wife and father-in-law know about your girlfriends? Maybe tonight would be a good time for that chat. I wonder if she'll remain faithful when you're in prison. She's about to learn a lot. How do you categorize that tweet from Matt Gaetz?
The first thought that I had when I read about this, in addition to just being appalled at what looks like a blatant effort to intimidate this witness, is that this is the effect of the Trump presidency. And that is, that kind of a sleazy attack on a witness before Congress is something we have come to expect out of the White House. And it affects the whole of government. And so you see members of Congress essentially mirroring their behavior on the President of the United States. And that is, I think, a terrible effect on this institution. But indeed, we've seen it on all of our institutions.
I think that that's an important point to underscore. This was from a sitting member of Congress. He then apologized. Here's what Matt Gaetz wrote, apparently addressing Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Speaker, I want to get the truth, too. While it is important to create context around the testimony of liars like Michael Cohen, it was not my intent to threaten, as some believe I did. I'm deleting the tweet, and I should have chosen words that better showed my intent. I'm sorry. Does that sort of erase the threatening of a witness in your mind?
It doesn't erase it. Nonetheless, I'm glad that he has apologized for it. But the harm has been done. And I hope that this will discourage other members from engaging in that kind of low behavior.
And so, Congressman, where are we? Just give us, from where you sit, because you have been so steeped in this, where are we today? Does this Michael Cohen... look, there are so many days that we come on the air and there is breaking news and there's some new thread and there is something that sounds explosive. But these 20 pages are really in a different category of what is about to be revealed under oath to Congress. And so from where you sit, has the needle been moved? How do you assess where the investigations are today?
Well, the needle has certainly been moved, and it's been moved right into the White House. If Mr. Cohen's allegations are correct, it means the president, while in office, literally while in the Oval Office, was engaged in criminal activity, and that is furthering this campaign fraud scheme that the Southern District of New York has already identified individual one as being involved in. So that's pretty breathtaking when you think about it, that the President of the United States is allegedly paying hush money as President of the United States. And misleading the country about it. And that's pretty serious business. But I will say this, the most complete picture at this point is the one possessed by Robert Mueller, is the one that will be part of his report. And I think this only underscores how important it is that that report be made public so that we can see Michael Cohen's testimony in the context of other evidence that has been produced to the government. We're in possession of some of that in our committee. But Bob Mueller's in possession of a lot more of it, some of which we can only obtain through his office because he's conducted search warrants, he's seized physical objects that we are not going to have access to. So it just underscores the need for transparency, and the Justice Department is really going to have to make that information publicly available.
We shall see if that is their intention. Congressman Adam Schiff, thank you.